So there you go. Another week has been and gone in Championship Rugby League, and here to do the roundup, as always, is my old friend Mr. Craig Lingard. How are you? Are you well?
Outstanding, mate. Yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Anything caught your eye in Championship Rugby League this week in terms of news or anything that you're hearing on the grapevine?
I guess it's just the uncertainty at Keighley going on. I know the owners they were going, and they're back in, and then the story comes out that they're being chased for missing payments, and I don't know how true that is, but it's another worrying story potentially if it is true. Obviously financially within rugby league at the minute, there's a little bit of backwards and forwards with certain teams, but you just want your team to be safe and secure and sound, don't you? And it's a little bit worrying.
It is a bit worrying, and did I read somewhere as well that there's some funding that was put to one side for Keighley Cougars, and that's been held back by the new council?
Yeah, I think they got granted £2 million to redevelop the old Danny Jones stand. I'm not sure if there was some sort of joint venture with the cricket club that backs onto the field, and it was going to be a pavilion stroke rugby league stand, or if it was just going to be a 100% rugby league stand. I'm not sure, but I believe there were £2 million that were earmarked, and that's been held back for a number of years now. So I think the local MP, I think it's Rodney Moore, I think he's brought it up in Parliament and tried to get a bit of traction to get it released.
Yeah, it's worrying times, no doubt. I saw that with regards to Keighley, but yeah, it's a bit quiet. It's a bit quiet out there, but at the end of the day, we are in the dying embers now, really, aren't we? I think it'll probably start livening up as we get to the latter end where, and I think again, a lot of clubs are probably wondering what the crack is for next year in terms of finances and what's going on with this NRL, if it's going to happen, Super League, what's the trickle down economics and all of that, aren't they? It must be causing problems in the Championship.
Yeah, it is. I think we're needing some answers fairly soon, really, because I think speaking to a number of agents and players there, I think they're worrying a bit at this moment in time, because I think Matt mentioned last week that you're normally getting round to getting your squad sorted, you're IDing which players that you've already got contracted, which players who are off contract that you want to keep, which players that are off contracts that are going to move on either because you don't want to retain them or because they're moving on elsewhere, and you start filling your gaps in. But at this moment in time, there's very, very few clubs that are doing any business because of the uncertainty around finances, structure, what's going on in and around the game. And I'm led to believe there might be some sort of discussions over the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks between the NRL and the RFL. But we know with rugby league that nothing ever gets decided very quickly, and it's normally a last-minute thing. But it's I think it's just a bit frustrating as well, because we don't know what the answers are, and it just seems to be a yearly thing that we'll leave things as late as possible to get answers and get some sort of structure that we're pretty much coming back into pre-season, still not knowing what fixtures we're playing, what league format's going to be, whether there's going to be a cup or not, and it looks like it's going to be exactly the same again this year.
Yeah, and of course, I saw that Ian Nolan's not due to start his position until the 1st of October, which again really reduces the timescales in terms of his input, in terms of however he sees things. Of course, he'll have a say in the game going forward. It's I mean, in terms of communications, how much is being spoken? Is it just completely deathly silence, or is there any indication at this time from what you're hearing, or is it all smoke and mirrors and Chinese whispers?
There's not a great deal that's being fed down to me, to be honest with you. I don't know what the internal communication is like between the RFL and the board of directors. I normally get fed down to me what I need to get fed. And it's normally quite an open channel, to be fair, and there's not a great deal of information that's coming to me. So I would imagine that most of the clubs are in a similar situation themselves. I played golf with Paul Harrison yesterday, the CEO at Batley Bulldogs, and we had exactly the same conversation, and he's as much in the dark as what I am. So if you've got the CEO of a club that's in the dark as well, then it's I think that's your answer there.
Yeah, it'd be across the game, won't it? It'd be across the division. Yeah, I mean, not ideal, but as you say, it, and I take no pride in saying this. Isn't that rugby league? Let's hope that under this new leadership, we just. I think there's basics in any walk of life, in any business. Communication is key. Let's be, without communication, you're really struggling. And I think that for me, there's too much Chinese whispers. There's too much feeding to third parties. And I think at times it's just grown people in a room talking reality. And I think that, the game would certainly be in a better place if that was the place. Speaking of people who are in a bad place, North Wales Crusaders, let's start there. wow, dearie me. I mean, if I did graphics for the championship scores, I'd probably had to have a new graphic to get 3 digits in for the score. 116.6. Now, we both said last week we expected a win this Vikings win. Did we expect 110 difference between these two sides?
Not sure. I thought it was going to be a big score. Whether I expected it to be 3 figures again, I don't know. I guess there were always that possibility that Widnes could have arrested quite a few people and brought some people in for debuts and whatnot, which I think they did leave a few people out and rotate. But to be conceding 116 points again, it is a little bit of an embarrassment for the game week on week now, and it needs resolving, it needs sorting out. And again, I think it's maybe a situation that I guess the Rugby League have put themselves in again. The club goes out of business and then they come back in a couple of weeks later when they've got no players. Should it have been taken out of their hands and said, no, you can't complete the season. If you want to start again next year, then we'll look at that. But you can't go out of business and come back and effectively have no players and expect to finish the season strongly.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, it looks like North Wales turned it in there in the second half. I mean, there's been a lot of comment over St Helens and Toulouse in Super League this week, but 44-0 at half time to end the game 116. It's fair to say that there wasn't much fight there in the second half. However, I have to say, Frank Sargent, a lad that I know well, played reserve grade at Warrington, went in for an hat-trick. So well done to Frank. He started the season with an injury, I think. He's found it very difficult to get in the Widnes side, was given an opportunity on the weekend. And, well, as a winger, you can't do any better than that. In he goes for a hat-trick. Many, many congratulations to Frank Sargent. Well done, young man. Hopefully he's going to have a very vibrant future in the game. Another one-sided affair. Donny probably again. I've seen a few comments from Doncaster. They should have been doing better against London than they actually have. But another convincing win against Donny by London, 68-18. Records continue to fall where London are concerned. Not surprised again in terms of the way this one went. Did we think though it'd be 50? Different?
Possibly not. No, the juggernaut that is London just keeps on rolling, don't they? And I know that Doncaster's squad on paper is very good, and it's an expensive squad that's been put together. But can you compete against the squad that London have got? It's very, very difficult. I know Doncaster started pretty well. I think got the first score, didn't they? And then London just clicked into another gear, and I think they scored back-to-back tries, maybe 3 times, and the game's pretty much done and dusted. Then, and I'm led to believe there were a little bit of bother on the field as well. I think red cards and people fighting.
Yeah.
Old school biff, which interesting.
Absolutely, off the ball stuff going on, off the ball tackles, and like I say, dismissals for fighting. The good old days, I think, is what they call it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what they call it, the good old days. And you said about Donny scoring a try. That in other circles, that's called poking the bear. Because it didn't get much better for Donny after that. But no, well, look, I mean, London is what London is. Barrow will be disappointed, I think. Home defeat, 30-6 to Newcastle Thunder. That appears to me to be a very solid win by Newcastle.
Yeah, I think I tipped Newcastle last week. I thought that Barrow had just got away with a few games, and I thought the way that Newcastle have been playing, then they might go up there and do a job, and they did that. I think it was level at half time, and they pulled away in the second half. And I've not seen any of the game, but I'm led to believe that Barrow believe that the scoreline maybe flattered Newcastle a little bit, but to go up to Barrow and score 20 odd unanswered points in that second half, 30 unanswered points in that second half, it's no mean feat to do that. So I'm sure they were well deserving of the victory.
Yeah, I agree. Now, look, we've just whistle-stop tour some massive blowouts. Luckily, though, we had some belters again. And, there's been times this season where we've had weeks where we've gone, oh, that was a game. That was a real good contest. And the rest, pretty much, well, Oldham maybe not, but most of the rest fall into that category. Starting at Batley. What a game. What a game this one was between Batley and the Midland Hurricanes. Batley 30. Midland 34, an absolute tri-fest. Clearly, defences had gone on holiday and were in Benidorm somewhere. But a great, good win for Midlands. They've had a bit of indifferent form in the second half of the season at this point. They'll be very, very pleased to get out of Batley with 2 points, won't they?
Yeah, they will. And I think, as you mentioned there, with their indifferent form, they'll maybe on the verge of potentially slipping out of the playoffs. But I would imagine now that victory is pretty much secured them in the 10, I think, unless you have a drastic end of season. I would have thought that they'd be pretty much secured in the 10 now. And to go to Batley and get a victory at any time of the year is very, very, very impressive. And I think it'll just give them a little bit of confidence. Let's not forget the weather that we saw this weekend was absolutely scorching, and for all the players to come out and do what they did in them conditions, in the heat and the weather, I think it's commendable. So I think to go there, I've seen some of the footage as well, that the very, very little green grass on the field, shall we say, pretty much of a scorched field, weren't they, at Batley, and playing in them conditions, very, very difficult. So any victory is good there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great win for Midland. They'll be delighted with that to go back to Avery Fields with 2 points clutched firmly to their chest. Let's get to your game. Now, I said I thought the potential this to be a real good game. Salford have been in great form. Of course, after the event, you said before we come on air, it was a game that you were concerned about as a consequence of their form. And it's fair to say, mate, it was a late try. It could have gone either way. Go on, over to you. Talk us through the game and how relieved you are to get out of there with 2 points.
Yeah, very relieved. I mean, the Salford team that are playing now is not the Salford team that started the season. The way that they're playing, the players that they've got in, we've got some real energetic younger players surrounded by some experienced players that they've managed to secure and bring in as well. And they're a dangerous proposition, and they're defending well, they're attacking pretty well as well. So, as I say, the way that they've played over the last sort of 2 or 3 games, I was worried about going there this week and getting a victory. So to come away from there with a victory is very, very pleasing. I think both coaches, myself and Chewy, can be a bit frustrated at times. I think, we conceded some soft tries, as did they. I would imagine from their point of view that some of their tries were soft that they gave away. So this stage of the season for us, as long as we keep winning, it makes no difference really whether it's by 2 points or whether it's by 20 points. It's 2 points on the league board.
Yeah, even if you find them, even if you find them somewhere, you'll take them. But no, I mean, look, interesting. It's fair to say that there'll be many people who raised an eyebrow when you brought Jordan Abdul to Sheffield. There would have been, but I think in this one, Jordan showed what a kicker can bring to your team. I think we'd all say that Jordan perhaps isn't the player that he was 3, 4, 5 years ago in terms of his mobility around the field, but his kicking game, his rugby brain. Was that the difference in this? Because I know that Kieran Dixon had a few issues with goal kicking on the day. Is it as simple as that to say that this is where he's worth his weight in gold?
I think when we brought Jordan, I think the rugby gods aligned. Obviously we were missing Jordan Lilly for the full season and Matty Marsh for the full season, and we had a couple of young halfbacks that were still trying to find their way in the game, and a winger playing at fullback that it weren't quite working for us. We weren't quite clicking, so we needed somebody just to get us around the field, somebody who were experienced there, somebody who could end our sets well. And obviously with the situation that Jordan found himself in at Widnes, where he were in and he were out, he wanted to play week in, week out, and we managed to get him in on loan initially and then secure him for a couple of seasons. So it worked out really well for what we needed on a short-term basis. But from what he's shown since he's been here, he's integrated into the group really well. I mean, there's all this, you always hear this bump and fluff about he don't train, he never turns up for training, he can't do this and he can't do anything else. He's pretty much 100% since he's been there. He's enjoying every single thing that he's doing there. I can't speak any more highly of him, the way that he's come in and conducted himself as an individual, as a professional. And yeah, we all know that he probably needs to be in a little bit better condition to get around the field and do a little bit more. But what he's doing with us, we're now playing an old school 6 and 7, so Jordan's keeping the middle of the park. It allows Kai Morgan to float left and right, and we've got Greg Eden hopefully back this week. He pulled out late on game day with a calf injury, but we've now got 2 attacking players that can flow left and right, and Jordan Abdul just controls it. We've scored a couple of tries of end of set kicks, but I thought in the second half the end of sets could have been a little bit better. Rather than ending in the corner, we were ending in the middle of the field and opening it up for Kieran Dixon to return the ball a little bit. But the wind was quite swirling up there, and it was difficult for him to end his sets where he needed to end them. But we've been such a better team since Jordan's come, just because of his game management and in general his end of sets.
Yeah, the try that was it the Walkley try, wasn't it? The one that that Abdul put up and the wing got hold of it.
Yeah.
That was happy days, eh? So, all about knowing your conditions and what a rugby ball's going to do. Well done, bit of game smarts there from Mr. Abdul with that kick, but no, I mean, a great win, and let's give credit to Salford as well. A much improved Salford, a more competitive Salford. It bodes well, doesn't it, for their 2027? I think that their journey this year is deserving of a lot of praise. And again, both on and off the field, I've been seeing a lot of what has been produced off the field for Ryan Briley, etc. It does feel like it's a new direction. It's a club that's got a lot of unity. There's a good future there, it appears, for Salford.
No, absolutely. And let's not forget as well, they were dealt a difficult hand at the start of the season after the financial troubles. The fixture list was sent out with them as team number one. But when they effectively came back into the competition as a brand new team, they should have been team number 21. So they've, on paper, they've had the hardest set of fixtures that they could have had, being team number one. So going through that with the hardest set of fixtures, developing a new team, basically starting from scratch and building as they've progressed through the season. I was talking to Chewy again on Sunday before the game about playoffs, and he's just said that nobody expects us to get playoffs at the start of the season. So if we do, then brilliant. But if we don't want to put any pressure on themselves, because a lot of these young players won't be in that situation where there's pressure on to perform to try and get a result. So it's just a case of them playing week by week and seeing what victories it can get and see where it gets them. We said at the start of the year, didn't we, that if they got 5 or 6 victories in the season, where they were as a brand new team, it would be an outstanding season for them. The round about that period now, potentially surpassing that. I would imagine they'll pick up at least another 2 or 3 wins before the end of the season, and that'll be a successful season for them.
100%. And if they, like I say, it'd be interesting to say. Do I see them getting in the playoffs? I probably don't. But if they did, would that be the story of the Championship this year? I mean, everybody's talking London. London's London. That's where. And I'm not being disparaging to London, but it is what it is. Great, well done. You're racking up the wins. Congratulations. It's very hard to get excited about that. I should hope they are where they are in the league table. But if Salford were to get into the playoffs off the back of what they've gone through over the course of the winter months, would that be, when all the dust has settled on the 2026 season, would that potentially be the Championship story of the year if they was to get into the playoffs? Yeah,
potentially. I think there's a few clubs that I guess you could say that have done well this year. Barrow have probably exceeded all expectations that they've had. And you look at Oldham now and the run that they're on, witness how they started the season. I'm quite happy that we're sort of floating under the radar. We talked about how well Widnes have done, how well Doncaster have done. We're level on points with Doncaster now and a couple of points behind Widnes, and nobody's mentioned us at all as yet, which I'm pretty pleased at, because it keeps us out of the limelight. It keeps our end of the parapet a little bit. But yeah, I think with Salford, where they started from and how they've progressed through the season, if they could manage to snag that last playoff spot, I think it'd be an absolutely outstanding season for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, this was an interesting game over in Cumbria. I think we both went Swinton. I think we fancied Swinton for the Whitehaven game. Hell of a game. Again, defence is at a premium. 34-24 to Whitehaven. Of course, the little added bonus of Anthony Murray going back to Whitehaven for the first time. I bet the Whitehaven supporters enjoyed this one. This is a good win for Whitehaven against the Swinton side that have been really coming good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Swinton went a couple of scores up early on as well, didn't they? So
they did.
Whitehaven to come back. Yeah, Whitehaven to come back from 2 scores down and grab that victory. I was just saying to you before we started that I've got a sneaky feeling that Whitehaven could potentially have a real good dig for that last playoff spot. They've got some games with teams around them that obviously it depends on how they're doing them games, but they've got the potential, I think, with the form that they're showing, the confidence that they're showing, that if they can pick up another maybe four wins between now and the end of the season, they could snag that last playoff spot.
Yeah, and I said before we came on air, I thought the year games would run out. We'll see which one's right. We're not going to put a beer on that because you're already 1-0 down. No, but you're right. No, Swinton led 3 times in this game, and it was only 2 late tries, the Holgate one and the one from Williamson, right on the 79th, that sealed the win for Whitehaven. So like I say, Swinton again went down there, did a real solid job. They'll be gutted, absolutely gutted to come away with the loss. But yeah, from a Whitehaven perspective, what a brilliant win that was for them. I'm led to believe Ethan Burfendike, isn't it, had a really good game as well for Whitehaven. And then bringing the curtain down on the weekend's action in the Championship, Oldham, 14 now and counting. I'll say it again, 14 consecutive games that Oldham have won, 36-18 over the Panthers. Led, never went behind once in this game. Got pulled back on an occasion, but a very, very solid and convincing win for Oldham in this one. Their form at the moment, very, very good. It's a bit boring talking about London because we expect London to win every week. We don't expect Oldham to win every week, but at the moment they are. This is an incredible run of form, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think you've got to feel a little bit for Halifax as well, but it's always a danger when you're relying on lone players. Miles Lawford called back to Wakefield, Jensen Windley called back to Castleford, so they basically lost the two halfbacks that were going to be playing. So that's frustrating for them, and going into a game against a team like Oldham, as you mentioned, with the amount of games that they've won on the bounce, with the confidence that they've got, the form of the show, and it was always going to be a difficult task anyway, made doubly difficult by the players that were taken off them. But the way that Oldham are playing, I guess they're going in towards the end of the season, hoping they can maintain that. We always said that a team will have a dip in a form at some point during the season. They've not had it as yet. Hopefully for them, it's not going to come as the playoffs come around and they can maintain that form leading into the playoffs. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Very, very good win indeed. They on week on they're playing this week. In fact, actually, probably is going to go 15 games. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, incredible. Well done to Oldham. A great run of form. Yeah, very good. And like I say again, we've actually only lost twice all year. It's a cracking, well done, Oldham. I mean, it could have gone a lot different, couldn't it? When they had that off-field pit and all the rest of it, but they've stuck. And again, what a great advert that is, isn't it? Especially at this moment in time with things that's going on in Super League. What a wonderful thing that is, that a team and a club that had a bit of adversity just stayed together and marched through it together. Isn't that a lovely thing?
It is, yeah. And it shows, I guess, there's one or two ways you can go. You can pack your bags and walk off and leave it, or you can sort of think, well, we can't really control a great deal apart from what we can control on the field, and let's go out and do that. Because I guess at that time when it's your livelihood, you're training 3 times a week and you're playing in a weekend, not knowing 100% whether that money is going to be there at the end of the month. It's I guess it is very easy to get a bit despondent and disillusioned and not give 100%. But credit to the Oldham players for not giving in. And we mentioned off air, didn't we, that you're not playing for the coach as such, or you're not playing for your teammate. You're playing for the badge. You're playing for the people that support the club, that that effectively do pay your wages. And whatever animosity you've got to the situation that's going on, you've got a responsibility as a player to go out there and give everything for people that come through the turnstiles.
And so say all of us. Right, shall we get to this week's action, shall we? Shall we have a look and see what joy is awaiting us at the weekend? Starting on Saturday at 5 o'clock, it's the Vikings off the back of that magnificent score against the North Wales Crusaders, and they're going up against Barrow. Now, these two teams, neck and neck, well, not neck and neck, but next door to each other in the league. Barrow 4th, Widnes of 5th, 2 points behind Widnes. Both played the same amount of games. If Widnes win, they have a far superior points difference, benefited off the back of that North Wales win. They did play each other on the 3rd of April. Barrow win 18-8. How do you see this one going?
I think I'm going to have to side with Widnes. Again, similar reasons to last week. I think maybe Barrow's form has dipped a little bit, and Widnes playing pretty well. I know they had them couple of defeats, didn't they, against Doncaster and Oldham, but I think home advantage against the Barrow team that's not necessarily 100% confident at the minute. I'll probably veer towards the side of Widnes.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to remember in that win that Barrow got against Widnes earlier in the campaign, Warren T. Ritson was still on the field of play. He was in great form, wasn't he? Such a shame his season was cut short like it was. So we've got to factor that in as well. But yeah, I mean, like you, I think Widnes at the moment, it's one of them, isn't it? It's one thing beating North Wales. Now it's about them getting back, just dusting themselves down and knowing that Barrow pose a far sterner test and being able to rise again, because it was I don't want to be too disrespectful, but it is a training drill what they've just had, isn't it? This is going to be a competitive game.
It is, yeah. And I guess the only concern that you'd maybe have with Widnes, or the question that you'd have with Widnes is beating the teams in the top six. You know, the beating the teams that you'd expect them to beat on paper that are below them in the table, mid-table or lower table. But recently, when they've come up against teams that are in the top six, like I said, like your Doncaster and your Oldhams have got beat. So I guess from them, they want to put a marker down for themselves, confidence-wise, that they can beat teams in the top six. So when it does come into the playoffs at the end of the year, there's no fear for anybody playing in the play against in them top six playoffs. You know, so they need to go out and put a marker down against Barrow this week.
No lie-in for Mr. Lingard this coming Sunday. For some unbeknown reason, they've decided to play the game at 1:30 instead of 3 o'clock. So that's an hour and a half less in bed for Mr. Lingard this Sunday. Going up against Workington, not a long time ago. The season's going at a fair old pace. Only in May, you last played Workington, 28-16 win at Workington. I'm going to back you. I'm going to back Sheffield for this one. Your thoughts about the task ahead of you this coming Sunday?
Yeah, it'll be a bit tough again. It's it always is when you play against teams from Cumbria. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a physical outfit that just keeps on going and don't give in. They've got some quality halfbacks as well that get them around the field. So, we'll be prepping as we always do, giving them the respect that they deserve. But we're three on the bounce. We'd identified this run of 5 games that we've got. We'd set as targets to try and get 5 out of 5. And we're 3 out of 3 at the minute. We need to knock another couple off, and we'll certainly be going for that. It's I think we scored 28 unanswered points at their place to be 28-0 up, and then they came back at us towards the end to get 16 points and could have potentially scored another one to make it a little bit closer towards the end. So it's on paper you'd probably say that Sheffield are the favourites, but we know that how good they can be and how loose we've been at times this year, that if we are that on Sunday, then we'll get picked off. So the challenge for us is to be professional and keep building week on week and keep getting better week on week.
And what about Mr. Eden? Is he fit for this weekend?
Not sure. We trained last night and he was still in rehab last night. We'll see how if he can get out onto the field on Thursday and Friday at training and give him as long as we possibly can, because we're certainly a lot better attacking wise when Greg's out there on the field.
My thoughts on Mr. Eden. Let's go to the next one. Another in Cumbria, Whitehaven, of course, a second week in a row they're going to be playing at home. This time it's the Goole Vikings. They went to Goole, of course, in April, won 36 points to 22 at Goole. They'll be feeling pretty. I'm guessing they'll be feeling pretty good. You've already said you think they've got a chance at the playoff places, and if they are genuine contenders, they need to be knocking Goole off this weekend, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and I've got to, because of that, I've got to go with Whitehaven, haven't I? If I go against them, I'll look even more stupid than what I do now. So I've got to go with Whitehaven, haven't I, to be fair. So I think home advantage, the confidence that they've got, I think it's tipping slightly in their favour. I'd have to agree with you on that. Midlands, they're going to be hosting Rochdale. Good win for Midland, and much needed win for Midlands for me last week. And of course, when they went to Rochdale earlier in the season, it was again another tight affair, 28-22. They won that game. This time, of course, they're at home. Rochdale have had very indifferent form, but then again, so too have Midland at times. Are we going a home win for this one? Yeah, I think so. I think they've maybe just got a bit more quality throughout the squad of Midlands. Again, as you mentioned there, Rochdale have got the capacity and capability within them to put in real good performances, as we've been on the wrong end of cells at Sheffield. So not downplaying the quality that Rochdale have got. I just think maybe at this time of the season, at this stage of the season, maybe Midlands have just got a little bit more strength in depth to get them through this game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the team at the foot of the playoffs at the moment is Dewsbury, of course. They're just ahead of Salford at this moment on points difference. We must say, though, Salford have played 3 games more than Dewsbury. Dewsbury this week hosting Halifax. And, of course, when they went to Halifax, they lost 30 points to 16. This feels like a game that Dewsbury need to win for me. They can ill afford a repeat defeat against Halifax, can they?
Yeah, I agree. And Halifax have got Adam Tangata back into the squad, which strengthens their pack. Will the loss of or potential loss of halfbacks that they can't get back from Castleford and from Wakefield hinder them as much as it would do at home, being at Dewsbury, and it's a narrower field and probably more direct game of rugby? I'm not sure, but it's a tough one to call, is this one? And yeah, I really don't know. I'll probably side towards Dewsbury just because of, I guess they're slightly more consistent. I don't know. It's a toss of the coin for me, but it's maybe slightly towards Dewsbury.
You mentioned him again there, Jensen. We had a big chat about Jensen last week, didn't we? I thought he played well against Lee at the weekend. I was there. I was in the stadium. He didn't let himself down.
No, I don't. He never does. He's a game kid, is Jensen. You know, he's 100% in everything that he does. He's tough as well, and he's not one of these halfbacks that won't carry or put himself in front of people to make tackles. You know, he's very, very tough, and his game, and I think he just needs that confidence that he's going to get a run in the team, and hopefully that Castleford give him that now that, you know, they've announced that both their halfbacks are leaving at the end of the season. So what have they got to lose by playing Jensen between now and the end of the year? It's only going to benefit him by playing more and more games. And I guess what they can do then is they can make a decision on him whether they see a future for him at Castleford over the last sort of 7-8 games, whatever they've got left to play. So I don't think there's any benefit for Castleford bringing Weaver back into the team, or just rotate Weaver and Assey and play Jensen at the opposite side and giving them that run in the game, that run in the team. Yeah, they've got absolutely nothing to lose.
Well, let's be fair. If that's what Warrington are doing at the moment with Leon Hayes, isn't it? You know, it would appear that that's Warrington's strategy. That, you know, Mark Sneed's not going to be there next year. Yep. Yes, they're bringing Brodie Croft in. We need to suss out Leon Hayes, you know, in terms of his ability and can he come in and do a job when called upon. And they're using this now, what it would appear, this period, I believe, to assess that. And he'll either pass that test or he won't. And it's the same for Jensen at Castleford, isn't it? It's his opportunity here to lay a marker down that he's capable of pushing for that first starting jersey at Castleford.
Yeah, I guess the situations are slightly different for the teams in respect of that Castleford won't get to the playoffs. Correct. So in terms of league positions for Castleford, it's not going to impact them a huge amount. I think their season's pretty much done now anyway. So what they might as well do is have a look at young kids like Jensen and see what they've got. Warrington's is slightly different. They're still playing for playoffs and going for silverware at the end of the season. So there's maybe a little bit more of a gamble there, bringing a young player in to see what he can do rather than playing an experienced player to potentially get him through some of the closer games or tougher games. So that'll be a decision that Warrington have to make of what do they stick with Leon Hayes for the season and run with that, see if he's good enough, or do then decide, well, actually we might need a bit more experience to get us through these tough games and playoff games where Mark Sneed's been there, seen it and done it and got a number of man of matches in finals it's played.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the analogy I was trying to put out there is the fact that if a team like Warrington, who have got playoffs to play for, have got the conviction to put a young lad in and suss him out now, then for me, there's no excuse for Castleford. As we're both agreeing on that, there's no excuse for Castleford not doing the same thing. If you're not going to throw Jensen in now, you never are. You know, and last week I was quite open and honest that I was concerned for Jensen at Castleford because he's not getting those opportunities. Now, for me, is the time for Castleford to give him those opportunities, and it's for Jensen to take them or not. And like I say, thought he had a real solid knock against Lee at the weekend. Not sure. I was a bit surprised by his new hairdo, I have to say, but you know, good luck to the lad. Right, Oldham, Hunslet, 44-0. Oldham beat Hunslet earlier in the campaign. You can't. It's got to be 15 from 15, hasn't it, for Oldham? This.
Yeah, you'd have to say that, wouldn't you? Being sensible, you'd have to say that Oldham playing too well at the minute, and you know, just knocking the victories off. And unless there's a anomaly where they play really, really poorly and they lose that consistency, and Hunslet play out of the skin and manage to get the victory, then you can't really see it at this moment in time, can you? So you'd have to go sensibly. You'd have to go with Oldham, but we've seen strange things happen this year.
We have indeed. You know what? When we talked about winning this, we didn't give Mr. Richardson his flowers for 48 points. I think we should do that. Well done, Danny. Good haul, that. Good haul. Well done, mate. Well done. If it was in a bag, you'd have had trouble carrying it home, mate. He's all I would say on that one. North Wales Crusaders taking on Newcastle Thunder. Well, we know which way we're going. It can't be another ton, surely.
It's hard to say not, though, isn't it? You know, you look at how Newcastle are playing. They've just gone up to Barrow and put 30 points on Barrow at their place, haven't they? So I don't think there'll be any issues with them going to North Wales and getting 100 points. And I guess from that point of view as well, you've got to question how resilient the players are at North Wales when they're turning up and they know that they're going to get beaten Nobody ever goes into a game knowing or expecting to get beat. But if you are going to do that, you're at North Wales at the minute, aren't you? When you've been beaten by 100 points, was it 4 or 5 times this year already?
Yeah.
And you're playing against Newcastle, who are joint second in the league, scoring points for fun, not losing. You're worried turning up there on a Sunday.
But again, if I may, on that, and I agree, I absolutely agree as a team, but as an individual, these players are always under the microscope. They've all got agents. There's clubs that are going to be, as you've rightly said, clubs are clamouring now for getting the plan sorted out for 2027. And there'll be some players there at North Wales Crusaders who might not like the fact that they're at North Wales Crusaders at the moment. They might not like that they're in this losing side. However, they do have an escape route, and that escape route is their own personal form and the way they apply themselves. Your thoughts on that? Because, for me, we said a moment ago, you have a duty of care for the badge that you wear no matter what. I agree with you. It's got to be tough mentally every week knowing that you're probably going to get a good hammering. How difficult for a player is it to shut all of that out and just simply go, I just need to concentrate on doing my job, being the best version of myself that I can be, in the hope that if a move away to better, to better opportunities is there, they can open that door for themselves. How difficult as a player is that to shut everything else out and just go, I've just got to be the best version of me today and do my job?
I think it is difficult, but I think it's down on the individual. I think we all know that individuals have got different mental toughness, different resilience, different strengths, different weaknesses, and it's how you conduct yourself within that. Rugby league's it's a team sport played by 17 individuals, isn't it? So it's how you can have the best individuals in the game. You chuck them all together and don't make the greatest team. You can have the greatest team with some of the not weakest, but not the most talented individuals, but there can be an absolutely fantastic team and get some results. But I think you need to be seen now with North Wales. You need more of the individuals to start standing up and being counted. And I guess there's a massive disparity between the quality of the player that they are and the players that they're playing against. Because let's not forget that some of the players that will be playing have come from amateur. They'll have been playing amateur a couple of months back and not playing to the level that they're playing it now, or against the players that they're playing now. They've probably never done that. We've got some players that are on the team sheet for North Wales that have played at some decent levels and at some decent clubs, but there'll be a big disparity within that team, within that 17 that play at North Wales, that some will probably struggle to get into an amateur team, but they're putting their hand up to play against Newcastle, to play against Widnes, to play against London, to play against whoever it is. So you've got to take after the people that are doing that. I just don't think that they're good enough to maintain it.
I'm going to pick your brains now. I'm going to put you on the spot. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a player, as a coach, whichever you want, you can do a bit of both if you want. Which players have you admired in your career that you shared a dressing room with, whether it's being as a player or a coach, for doing exactly that? Where in those dark times, you always knew that they were always going to turn up. It was never a doubt in your mind that individual, he'll be 9 out of 10 today. He'll do his job. Give some flowers to some of the great characters that you've had the privilege to either play with or coach.
Do you know what? There's one player that always springs to mind when I said when somebody asks me about the most underrated player or toughest player or best player, whatever it might be, and it's Niall Flynn at Batley. Niall came to Batley on trial in my first year when I was back at Batley, and it was a curtailed COVID season. I think we played 5 or 6 games in that year. Yeah. And Niall is just one of them. He's an unassuming individual, really, really quiet, nice kid, really respectful kid. He'll come to training, do everything you ask him to do. But he'll not necessarily stand out. When you're doing your left versus right, or you're doing your defensive stuff or whatever, he'll not come out of a line and shoot and put a shot on anybody. He'll not carry and scatter 15 people and run 30, 40 yards and do that sort of stuff. So that first curtailed season, he never played. And then we recruited for the following season. It was, can he come back on trial and pay as you play? Yeah, of course he can. He can come back in. And I think we got maybe 5 or 6 games into the season, and he'd done all pre-season. He'd played a couple of the pre-season friendly games. And I think we picked up quite a few injuries, so he got his shot. And he came in and he played in the middle, not expecting a great deal. We need him to play. And he was outstanding. And Matt Moxon, my assistant coach at the time at Batley, and we had a conversation afterwards and said, well, we've got a few players coming back next week, but we can't leave them out. So he played the week after, played the week after, played the week after. I think he ended up playing the next 22 games of the season and made himself an absolutely undroppable player. whether you played him in the back row, whether you played him in the middle, he'd play 80 minutes for you. If you asked him to, if you said to him that, I need to give me 15 minutes, give me everything that you've got, he'd go like a rocket and he'd just do anything that you'd ask him to do. And he's still playing at Batley now, doing exactly the same job. So I think for me, as an individual, whether it's underrated, somebody who you can rely on 100%, he's one of them. Is now. I just think he's probably one of the most underrated players within the Championship.
Yeah, I praise indeed. And he's clocked up over 100 appearances, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, high praise. There you go. There'll be a lot of people out there that don't even know about Niall Flynn, but he's just been given incredible flowers from Craig in terms of his commitment and his performances at Batley over the years. And if Niall is watching, there you go. Hey, there you go. If Craig says you're all right, you're all right. Let's get to Salford against London. You've just played Salford this week. We expect a London win. Of course, we expect a London win. How good a test do you think Salford will be for London at the weekend? You've seen all the teams now. Where would you put them in terms of a test? We expect a London win, but try and quantify, if you can, the test you think Salford could give them.
I think this will depend on how the young players react and how the young players respond, because this will be the biggest test probably that they've had in their career.
Yeah.
And we know with young players that you have deficiencies and you can't expect the consistency week in, week out that young players can't give you because of their experience to do that. But what young players always do is they'll give you 100% and they'll give you effort, they'll give you attitude, they'll give you everything that you want as a coach. I guess it's how they respond to the occasion, how they respond to the situation. Do they embrace it? Do they take a little bit of a step back? Are they going to be sort of rabbits in the headlights a little bit playing against all these star players?
Yeah.
And as is always the case in games like this, the first 10, 15 minutes are going to be crucial. If they can manage to hold them a little bit and take them a little bit deep into the game, then it'll give them a little bit of confidence. If they concede set one, set two, and then that juggernaut starts going forward, then it's going to be a big test for them. But I think for me, with Salford, like any team that play London this year, they've got nothing to lose. Salford, defensive, they've got some decent structures. Offensive, they play some decent stuff as well. So they just need to go out and concentrate on them and play their game. And there's no reason why they can't challenge them. Do I expect them to beat London? No. Do I expect London to rack up a 80, 90-point score? No. So I think it's probably going to be one of them. It's what do you accept as a respectable score against the London team? Is it 40? Is it 50? If you can keep them to that, then you've done pretty well based on the scores that they've been putting on teams all the way through the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of curiosity, what did you make of Jake? Of course, you come up against Jake, didn't you, at the weekend? Fearless.
Yeah. He went all right, mate. Yeah, took his try well, went well. I think they moved wingers towards the end of that first half because of the end of sets that Jordan Abdul putting up. They moved Jake to the right hand side from the left hand side to try and tighten the ship up there.
Yeah, good player, Jake. Good player. I was amazed he's not. I was amazed at Magic he wasn't, and I said that. Amazed that he wasn't recalled and put in at Magic. But anyway, there's by the by. A player that for me is a Super League player, Jake Fearless. If you look at his return last year, he's there. Speaking of which, Alfie Johnson, we mentioned Alfie a few weeks ago. Castleford are sniffing around Alfie, aren't they?
Yeah, if rumours are to be believed, they've won the race to sign him for next season, which I think well deserved. I think he's a player that's got that potential to go well in the game, and you're hoping as well that he gets the opportunity and he's not just there to make numbers. I know he's not going to be a first choice player, but he'll probably have a full pre-season in a full-time environment, play the pre-season games, and hopefully gets a shot.
Yeah, again, there's lots of ifs and buts about York, isn't there, in 2027, and that'll all line itself out. But that'd have been a great destination for him, for me, just in terms of game opportunity.
Yeah.
That's my concern. That he goes to Castleford and his squad and he's loaned out. Be interesting to see him get a good run of games. He's definitely a specimen. There's something there in that lad. We'll keep an eye on him as he goes. Last but not least, Swinton Donny. Now, Donny, if you remember, benefited from all the trauma of Swinton. They beat him 74-6 in March. Won't be 74-6 this weekend. That ain't happening. Never in a million years do I think that is happening. Swinton will be a much sterner test this time around, and it's at Swinton. Yeah. Have we seen enough from Swinton in the recent past to suggest they could get a home win against Donny, or are Donny too strong still?
I think we've seen enough from Swinton to suggest that they can run them close. Doncaster should be too strong. They should. And I would imagine they'll be looking at a response from their game last weekend against London. So sensibly, again, you'd say that Doncaster have got a little bit too much quality, a little bit too much strength in depth for them not to get the victory. But we've also seen this season that Swinton have got the potential, they've got the ability, and now they've got that little bit of extra experience and quality to see them over the line in some tight games. So again, they'll be looking at trying to keep it as close as they possibly can for as long as they possibly can, get Doncaster a little bit nervous and then see where the game takes them.
It's going to be an interesting one. It's one of them, isn't it? Swinton's one of them teams at the moment where I find it very difficult to write them off. Whereas at the start of the season, we were talking about Swinton like we were talking about North Wales. Well, without even batting an eyelid, we're saying it's going to be a win. But they made the sterner stuff. I still think Donny win it. Nowhere nearby that scoreline. It'll be very interesting to see what the final score is at Swinton on Sunday. So, it's London still top. Newcastle and Oldham just behind them on 30 points, albeit Oldham have played a game less. Then it's Barrow on 28, Widnes on 26. Then there's a drop to 22 points. Two teams on that. Doncaster having played 16 and Craig Sheffield, who's on 17. Then it's Midland on 19 points. Before Batley on 16, Dewsbury on 14, Salford just outside of those playoff places on 14 as well. But they have played 3 games more than Dewsbury, who they are alongside points with. To confirm this weekend's games, Saturday, Widnes against Barrow. Should be a good game, that one at Widnes. 5 p.m. kickoff. Get yourself down there if you can. Sunday, it's normally 3 o'clock Sunday, not this week, oh no. Sheffield against Workington is 1:30. Whitehaven and Gould Vikings is also 1:30, which means that Craig will be having his Sunday dinner at a reasonable time this week. Midland Hurricanes, they're going up against Rochdale at 2. And then at 3 o'clock, it's Dewsbury against Halifax, Hunslet Oldham, North Wales Newcastle, Salford London, and Swinton Lions taking on Donny. That is the round that's on its way, and we will be back next week with all the news, all the gossip from the Championship, a review of those games, and a preview of the games that are still to come. We wish you well, mate, as you take on Workington this weekend. We'll see you on the other side. From myself and from Craig, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.